Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Wrong time, wrong place is like what I like to think when it comes to organized crime. Criminals are pretty creative in making these big operations, but it only takes one small thing to mess it all up. In history class, we all learned about the notorious gangster Al Capone and how he rose to power during the Prohibition era. But he is not my focus. So what exactly is organized crime? Wait.
Is the clicker not working? There you go.
So organized crime is a group of individuals who work together to earn profit through illegal methods. And today I'll be discussing how organized crime has changed over the years, starting with the history of organized crime in the eastern part of the United States, the western part of the United States, and overall how it's prosecuted. Stephen J. Duber once said, "As long as there have been cities, there have been gangs of one sort or another." And I'm going to start in the eastern part of the United States with my focus on New York. So that's where it all started. New York happens to be the origin city. And according to History.com, there have been 7 main gangs that roam the streets. And I'm going to start off with the 40 Thieves. And under the leadership of Edward Coleman, they operated between the 1820s and the 1850s in Five Points neighborhood. And it was called the Five Points neighborhood because 5 different streets came together into like this plaza, and therefore the neighborhood got its name. The Bowery Boys were more of a political club than a mob that rose in the 1840s, and they, unlike other gangs, were actually fancy guys, had jobs, but then at night their alter ego was to commit crimes against political parties. And the rival gangs were the Dead Rabbits. The Dead Rabbits were made up of Irish immigrants, and they were one of the most feared gangs from the Five Points neighborhood throughout the 1850s. And the picture here is when they clashed with the Bowery Boys, and it turned into a bloody riot that ended up killing a dozen people on July 4th of 1857. Another gang that I'm going to talk about that I don't have a picture about up here is the Daybreak Boys that looted the city's booming shipping industry during the late 1840s. And they got their name because they preferred to strike in the day than at night. And what they did was that they would, like I said, loot the industry and take whatever they could. But the gang didn't last that long and fell apart in the 1850s. The YUs or the Y-Hos, or depending what part of America you're from and you like to pronounce this gang, are one of the most dominant in the streets of New York. And they were led under Eastman. No, wait, I'm sorry about that. They were one of the most dominant gangs from the 1860s to the 1890s. This right here is Mr. Eastman, known as Edward, but made everybody know him as Monk. He was a Jewish mobster that led one of the most feared gangs in 1890s. And he was a World War I hero, but when he returned, he got gunned down in the city sidewalk in 1920. And their rivals were the Five Points gang. And the Five Points gangs were led under Paul Kelly, and he united, because all these gangs would clash with each other and they would fall apart once their leaders were dead. So what Paul Kelly did was he recruited all these remaining members and made this big gang. And their rivals were the Eastman gang. But their influence died in 1910. But before they actually died down, they created the next mobster leaders that were to come: Al Capone, Lucky Luciano, and Johnny Tarrio. And with that in mind, I'm going to shift my focus to the western side of the United States, specifically in Vegas. So after the Prohibition era, the gangs needed something new. Hence, the syndicate was created. And this picture right here is Mr. Charles Lucky Luciano, as he was known, and together with Meyer Lansky, they brought a whole new world, because after the Prohibition era, they did something to do with all their money and something new to organize, I guess, for crime. So, but then Mr. Lucky was deported back to Italy, and they didn't know what to do with all this money. So Mr. Lansky partnered up with Mr. Benjamin Bugsy Siegel, and they created the Flamingo in Vegas, the first model resort for the strip along Vegas. So Vegas started out as organized crime. If you guys didn't know that, all those casinos, organized crime goes their history. But I mean, this is what it looks like now. Michael Green said that traditional organized crime may be gone, but there will always be some kind of organized. As long as we have gambling, there's money to be made from it. So casinos. So what exactly do we do with all these organized crimes, and how do we take it down? The FBI is one of the branches that works in it, and together with prosecutors, they team up and they talk about, before they begin their investigation, what they're going to do, how they're going to take it down. They talk about possibilities of what can we do to bring this person in and whatnot. And they use other techniques that they've used in other cases before to see if it works or not. And the problem is that agents only have so much to do, and if they're undercover, they can only do so much, and then close that case, bring up another one, and so just, it's one case at a time. And we don't have enough agents, and we don't have enough money. We never have enough money. So as time goes on, so does organized crime, starting at the local area, working itself to the international level. And if you ever find yourself in Vegas and you want to know more about organized crime, you should definitely check out the Mob Museum, because it started out as, they were actually very sketchy about starting this museum, because the guy that wanted to start it was lawyer of the Italian mobsters, and the government was like, there's something fishy here, we don't want you. But overall, they created it. And as you can see, they have like the cities. So there's Kansas City, Detroit, LA, New York's over here. And there is so much out there. And I only gave you a brief explanation, or tried to give you a brief explanation. Like, it's a really tiny part of what is going on, or how it all started, and what is being done, or possibly, to get rid of all this. If you guys really would like to know more, you should definitely check that out.